In C++, the null constant has always been too ambiguous. Let's take a look at this problem. Here I have a working copy of nullpointer.cpp, and you'll notice that I get an error here on line 18. If you're running on a Mac and you're using the same Xcode that I'm using, you'll probably also see an error. But if you're running on a PC, you may not see an error because null is defined differently on a PC. And here's where we have the problem. Since the very beginning of the C language, the constant value 0 has served double duty as a null pointer constant. Ambiguity was dealt with by defining a preprocessor macro called null, which was typically defined as a 0 value pointer to void. And that would look something like this. Well, we'll just put it down here. I can just say void 0 like that. C++ did not adopt this behavior, and it doesn't support the loose typecasting of the void pointer like C does. This would be too ambiguous in C++ with its extensible type system. So the C++ standard does not specify the exact value of the null macro. It's different on different systems. On this system, it's 0LL. That's actually how it's defined in the headers on this system. So it's a long 0 value. On some systems, it's just a 0. And like I said, on some systems, if it's just a 0 like this here, this wouldn't even create an error here. You'll see that little error marker will go away. What we have here is we have two functions, both with the same name f, that take different parameters. One of them takes an integer and one of them takes a constant character pointer. And so if I call it with a 0, it's going to call the function that takes an integer. If I call it with a void pointer 0 like this, which is how the null constant was defined in C, you notice I get this error that says no matching function call to f, because there is no function call to f that has a void pointer. So this leaves C++ without a generic null pointer. And beginning with C++ 11, there is now a keyword for this. So void 0 doesn't work like that, 0 does. On the other hand, if I just say null pointer like this, now that's treated as any kind of a pointer. And so it'll actually call the version here that says the pointer is, and I'll go ahead and build and run, you'll see it says the pointer is 0. And if I call this with a number 0, then it'll come back and say the int is 0, so it's calling that one there. And of course, if I call it with 0LL, it won't work at all because the call is now ambiguous because there's no long version of it. So C++ defines this new keyword, null pointer, and you'll no longer use this null constant, this null C preprocessor macro, as we used to do in C and even in early versions of C++. The null pointer constant provides a much needed value to be used where the traditional null void pointer value has been used in C, but doesn't work in C++. It resolves the ambiguity problem, and it can be used in any context of any pointer type.